I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I do understand people's fears, the whole thing of saying, well, it's a new vaccine, so we don't know what the long-term effects could be. But at the same time, the last time you ate out, do you know exactly what was in the food that you
and
purchased?
Who made it,
you know?
and if they were
but you
mad
still,
at you?
Yeah, you still ate someone's boogers probably. So, and you're still alive.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Law Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtery, FWHlegal.com. As always, we are bringing this show to you from 530 Frederick Street at the high-rise white brick edifice. And today it's snowy and icy outside, but it has not stopped us from getting this recorded so that you can have it Friday. We'll drop it, right?
That's right.
Is that right, PJ?
You're
going to have it done?
Correct.
All right. PJ is on the other side, and we have had the opportunity for the last hour to sit here with John McNulty, a good friend of mine, a client of Foreman Watson Holtery's. Foreman Holtery's, I'm plural now. Mm-hmm. Foreman Watson Holtery, but John, welcome to Law Lite.
Thanks, Travis.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. And PJ, you've just kind of gotten an idea of, I've known John about 10 years, and when you said that, I remember, when I first met you, I took you to lunch, and since then, we've obviously been able to work with a lot of business that you're involved in, but also gotten to know you personally and know your business partner personally, and we've already got stories we're telling, right?
We have a lot of great stories, but I'll tell you this. One of the things that drew me to you, Travis, was that when we went to lunch that day, you built a friendship. And from that friendship, then we started doing a few legal things together, and you built a trust ship. And from there, we were able to build a business ship together, or you became part of our business.
We appreciate that. We appreciate you guys, but the same is true on the other side. We're going to get to this in a minute, but for those that don't know, John is the principal of Urgent Care, Gateway Urgent Care, which is over on 54 and Fairview, correct?
That's right.
They also have urgent cares over in Newburgh. We're going to let John fill us in on that stuff, but here's what's important is that there have been multiple times too, John, that I've called about one of my many kids or my wife or myself and said, hey, can you get me in, or can you have one of your, and you guys have facilitated our needs. And that's the way it is when you have the kind of relationship that we've built. And so it's a great thing.
It is a great thing, but if I can be a little honest, Travis, if anybody calls me, I'm going to get them in as quickly as we can.
I understand
because
that.
You're important, because you're a great friend of ours, and your family's especially important. But at Gateway Urgent Care, everybody's important.
Right. And you guys have done a good job trying to make that known. There was a situation where one of our kids had been injured at school. The school recommended that he be taken to another urgent care. We followed that instruction, and when Missy walked in, they were like, a broken nose? What do you want us to do about a broken nose? We're just going to tell you there's nothing we can do about it. That really made Missy mad. I got a phone call, and it was not a nice phone call. I said, call John McNulty or go. I said, do you want me to call John? And she goes, no, I'm just going to go to Gateway. I said, okay, they'll take care of you. I didn't even worry about it. And sure enough, X-ray done. Oh my God, the APRN on duty that day was unbelievably sympathetic and attentive. Found out that it wasn't just it was a deviated septum, broken. The nasal bone was broken in two different places, and lo and behold, 3 days later, the young man was having surgery. The way you made us feel was night and day from the other. And so I think that it goes to what you're saying. I didn't call you that day. They just came in.
You know what's funny about that whole situation is that just like Foreman Watson Holtery, Gateway Urgent Care, Kentucky, and Mercy Urgent Care in Indiana, it doesn't matter who's walking in the door. Everybody's a potential customer. Mm-hmm. everybody. And so you love everyone when they walk in the door, you love them during the whole process, and you love them when you walk them out.
Right.
And you treat them like you'd want to treat your own children. And that's what we did with yours.
Even when you give them one of those big old antibiotic shots in their hip and they're cussing you, right?
Yes, actually, the COVID swab in the nose is worse than that.
Now,
yes, sir.
Yeah. Well,
I'm starting to feel like there's a story behind antibiotic shot.
I had got a shot of antibiotics. What's it, tocipressant or something?
It's Rocephin. Did I give it to you?
No,
okay.
You didn't give it to me. You didn't give it to me, but when I got it, I sure knew I had it. I remember trying to get up in my truck, and I was like lifting my leg. I was like, I feel like I just got shot.
It's like somebody just put a ping pong ball in your rear end.
God,
right.
It was horrible.
They used the 16 gauge needle. Right?
Oh yeah.
No, it was the straw. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But before we get to some specific things, I want to get to COVID, and I want to talk about the niche of urgent care, the reason we need them.
Okay.
And specifically you guys. But we jumped right in, and you and I started. It's how we always are. Just jump right to the topic. But tell us a little bit about you. Grew up here, I guess?
Yeah, I'm from Owensboro. Large Catholic families from Owensboro, both sides. Married a girl I went to Owensboro Catholic High School with. We went to University of Kentucky, graduate school to Western. I spent a lot of years in environmental sciences and chemistry, and then went to work in the pharmaceutical business. I fell in love early on with biochemistry, with the medical side of chemistry. And then, 14 plus years ago, I built a medical laboratory here in Owensboro, and then we segued that into urgent care in Owensboro, and now we built 3 urgent cares in Evansville, and we're actually building another urgent care in Owensboro, which should be open in July or August.
Right, and is it okay that we tell the location of that one?
Sure.
Okay, so just down Frederica Street, right by Wesleyan Park Plaza.
That's
correct?
right. It's the corner of Emory Drive and Frederica, 2804 Frederica Street.
Okay, so right on the main drive, in the heart of Owensboro, you are going to have your second urgent care here in Owensboro.
That's correct.
And will it be called Gateway?
It'll be called Gateway Urgent Care.
There you go. Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the Gateway and how the kinds of people, the kinds of things you see, but in our cases, as you know, we'll have people that have been involved in a wreck or they've been injured somehow, and they go to the emergency room and they get a workup. They have diagnostic films done. PJ, you know this very well because you parse through this stuff to present video stuff. So they'll go and they'll get worked up. They'll maybe be given a prescription for some muscle relaxer or a pain pill or something like that.
Right.
And then they're told, follow up with your doctor if your symptoms continue, for a week or more.
That's correct.
Okay. And sure enough, their symptoms don't go away in a week or more, but this person just moved here from wherever, and they have no family physician. They have no relation. They have nowhere to go, but they need treatment.
Yes.
And so they come to Gateway Urgent Care.
Right.
All right. In that situation, one of the things that you guys can do to help a person that's sort of without a family doctor or has this type of a need to be seen for something that's continuing on?
That's a great question. We get a lot of those who don't go to the ER. They end up coming to our office because they don't want to sit in the ER for the next 12 days or 12 hours or 6 hours, whatever it takes. But they'll show up to an emergent care office like Gateway Urgent Care. Same things are being taken care of, same types of medical treatment. They're all, we have our medical providers are just as qualified as ER. In our offices, we have hospital grade digital x-ray. So it's the same type of care. Now, if we're talking severe trauma, they need to go to the ER, and EMS is very good at making that distinction. But if a whiplash in the neck, my knee was twisted, I fell on the ice, I fell on my elbow, et cetera, those are great situations for starting out at an urgent care. When they come in, we do a full evaluation. Obviously, if there is some structural injury or pain, we'll always do an x-ray. At that point, whether we're seeing them for the initial visit or it's a follow-up visit from an ER, the medical providers will make a determination. Are we going to follow up with more muscle relaxers? Is this a soft tissue injury? In other words, a torn ligament or a sprained muscle or something like that, sprained ligament? Or is it structural? Do we have a fracture that didn't show up on the first x-rays? Because a lot of times fractures won't show up on the first x-ray. A small fracture, it takes a little bit of time for the swelling to kick in and for the fracture to show. And so a lot of times it's that second visit that more is found. Now, additionally, if we see that there's no structural fracture or a break and it needs to go to the next level of specialty, to orthopedics, for example, Gateway Urgent Care is a great launching pad. We take a lot of pride in making sure that wherever you need to go next, we make the appointment for you. We make the referral, make the appointment for you, we make sure you get there, and then we always follow up to make sure that appointment was made and how are you doing.
I guess one of the words that I've used when talking to my patients is a gatekeeper.
Yes.
That your clinic is a place that can kind of control traffic. If a person can be taken care of there, they're taken care of there, and it doesn't need to go any further.
Yes.
But if they do need to be directed to a specialist, and let's take it outside of car wreck. I mean, they may see something and say, you know what, you have a bad kidney stone, we think, and you need to see a urologist.
Hey, let me give you a great example right here. On Monday, a man, 50-year-old man, came into our office. He had just been at St. Vincent Hospital for 9 days with COVID. He had been out maybe 5 or 6 days. His wife brought him in. She's a nurse anesthetist. Okay. Very educated doctor. He came in, shortness of breath, still not feeling, just feeling terrible. Didn't have a primary, hadn't seen a primary care doctor in who knows how long. Being a nurse anesthetist, she knows something's wrong. She said, what do we do now?
Right.
Great, let's do chest x-rays. Does he have pneumonia again? No, he did not. Okay. But he did have that glassy COVID lung look that's going around. The nurse practitioners that were on staff that day, unlike the ER that saw him a few days prior, listened to everything, and they both listened to his heart, and they found heart murmurs. Okay, so we're the gatekeeper. What do we do next? We have a strong reputation with all the specialists in town. We made an appointment with a cardiologist that would take you and I if we don't know anybody, 6 to 8 weeks to get in. We got him in 24 hours.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
The gatekeeper is a big benefit.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Now, you've said a couple things that I want to kind of talk about. Let's first of all, let's talk about what's going on with COVID. Now, we are coming up on a year anniversary of when our country began to deal with this virus. And I know that from talking with you when I asked you to come on the Law Lite, you told me a little bit about how initially it just shut your doors essentially, and then as it's come back, then you've really had to facilitate the testing and what you guys are doing to administer the most effective test. So take me through a little bit of how COVID has affected the urgent care, but now how you are able to help people.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. COVID pretty much decimated, I guess, I don't know what percentage of the businesses total in the country because it became a pandemic, but it was also a panic-demic. But the disease is real. It's made a lot of people sick. As people were afraid to go to the doctor, consequently, it was kind of funny. They were afraid to go to the doctor, but they would go to Walmart. Okay. As this requirements for employers, for schools, for travel became that you had to test negative, all of a sudden our offices were being flooded with people who wanted a COVID test. And for the longest time, we just sent those tests out to a national lab, and it took 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 days to get results. But that wasn't quick enough because, Mr. Smith needed to go back to work tomorrow. So we did our research, and we found a rapid antigen test. The antigen test tells you if you have had the virus or if you have the virus now. And that takes about 15 minutes. That was great. Insurances don't hardly pay for that at all, so we just charge $80 cash for it. The other type of test, which we do in our office, is called a PCR molecular DNA test, and that's the same thing that Mayo clinics do, the large hospital systems do, that type of thing. We do those in our office, which tests for COVID-19. It's 99.99% accurate. Takes about an hour to get the result right there in our office. It also tests for 18 other pathogens or viruses. So, for example, if you don't have COVID, but you have pneumonia, we know the difference.
Okay.
Or maybe you don't have COVID, you just got a really bad cold, something called rhinovirus. Okay, so you don't need an antibiotic. We don't need to go to the hospital. All you need to do is, take your zinc and vitamin C and get some rest, drink lots of fluids, and don't sneeze on anybody.
Right.
But what we found was interesting is that people, as travel started opening back up, different countries, a lot of the islands. We get a lot of people who right now are going south to some of the, in the Caribbean
right.
and the Virgin Islands and such. Those countries down there will not allow a rapid antigen test. They require the PCR molecular DNA test.
Okay.
And so we have those there. We get the report, take it to the airport, they'll let you on the plane.
Right.
All schools, government institutions, employers, countries, and other destinations will accept the PCR molecular DNA test for COVID.
Okay.
We see a lot of restrictions on the DNA or on the rapid test that everybody calls about.
How did you have to change the way, though, that, I walk into your office and I say, I think I have COVID, right? Okay, well, if I did, and then I've exposed, your receptionist, your staff, that kind of thing. What did it change the way you did business as far as?
No, because in the medical office, we're always susceptible to being exposed. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's the flu can be just as dangerous to a lot of people.
Right.
Okay. Everyone hates masks. Everyone hates social distancing. I feel like I'm in a foreign country when this happens. However, one of the things that we've noticed anecdotally is that the masks are working. Guess what? We normally have already diagnosed by this time, mid-February, probably 2,500 cases of the flu. We've diagnosed 6.
Oh, so there.
The virility of the flu, the acuity of the flu has plummeted because the masks are working and the social distances are working. Now, I read a great article in The Atlantic on Monday, and it was talking, some virologists were talking about what happens when the masks come off. They're split. One side says the flu is going to just get huge and it's going to start hammering us, so is strep throat and sinus infections and such. The other side says, well, it's not been able to mutate in all the bodies and all the humans across the country. Therefore, it's going to be muted.
Interesting.
It is.
No, okay. Are you seeing the same kind of things with sinus infections?
Yes, sir.
And things
Absolutely.
Like that? We just seen a decrease in those things.
Enormous drop.
By wearing masks and social distancing.
That's exactly right.
Washing hands better.
Washing hands. Yeah. People practicing good hygiene. Now, what's interesting is in the medical office, people always say, well, how come nobody ever gets sick in here? Because we do those things already.
Anyway.
We do those
that
just on a normal everyday thing.
Well, now, again, that is a good, we've had numerous discussions about COVID, different elements of COVID on Law Lite here. But one of the things we haven't discussed is how it has had positive effects on other illnesses because of the whole. It's taught us how to work remotely in a lot of situations. How, like a snow day now, there's no such thing for us, right? We're working just as effectively from home.
Amen.
And students are doing the same thing. They, you don't have a snow day anymore. I was talking to Brian Jackson from Cromwell Radio. He said, the days of kids waiting by the radio to hear if their school gets named, they're done. They're gone. Or watching the internet to see if you're, it's gone because now they just say flip on your, NTI or virtual learning and you're going.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh my gosh,
I think it's great. I think we should have school year round.
Right.
But what a tyrant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
well, here's the one thing that jumps out at me, and I won't say which sister-in-law, but I recently had I've got 4 of them. I recently had a conversation.
They'll know which one you're talking about.
Oh, they will, yeah.
Okay.
I won't publicly say who, though, but I recently had a conversation, and they're one of the ones where they never wear a mask because they're like, masks are stupid, masks don't work.
Yes.
I didn't want to argue with them, so I just let them think that, because if you feel that way and you think that way, I'm not going to change your mind. Mm-hmm. But what you said makes a great point. If it's working against the common flu and you're going from thousands of diagnoses down to 6, it has to be working for other viruses as well.
It is.
Right?
In that report I read in The Atlantic, I think they quoted someone at Mayo Clinic, Arizona, and I think they said they typically have 27,000 confirmed cases in Arizona
of the flu
in that clinic area, and they've had 1.
That is just incredible.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but if it's working against rhinovirus, I mean, it's got to have some effect on COVID.
Yes, it does. Now, I will say that the virility of COVID is much stronger than the other viruses,
and the new strain apparently is it's
mutating, and so it's getting in and around. we all know people who've had COVID. A lot of us have had COVID already. I think more than 3/4 of my staff have probably had it in some form or fashion, and it's, you're going to get it. So the masks probably help with everything. I'm sure it helps with some protection with COVID, and certainly wear them, especially if you have comorbidities or other type of medical issues. And actually, I saw a great meme early on in the pandemic, and it showed some patriots sitting there, and some redcoats walked up and said, "Put on your mask," and they said, "Kiss our butt." And so that's the way I felt about it early on too. But in science, you have to be honest and look at the data,
right?
Not your feelings and not your thoughts, not your political place. Watch the data. The data and numbers never lie.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Thanks to social media and YouTube, everyone, as soon as the pandemic hit, was a virologist all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Everyone knew better than the doctors.
Find out who you could believe and not believe, and you'd read things, and then reports and misreports of what Fauci's saying and things like that. It became, but I am glad you shared the information, because I guess I never had asked that question, like, well, what are we seeing with other viruses, with people now wearing, with a majority of people wearing masks and taking the precautions. I had one of the jokes, I was skeptical early on too, John, and I remember when you began going places and they had the X's where you stand.
Yes.
I remember I was on my way to Lexington for some depositions. And I was right in E-Town. There's a brand new 5-star gas truck stop, type thing. And I was in there, and I was standing on one of those X's. And this lady was standing kind of close to me, and I looked at her. I said, "Hey, when you stand on one of these X's, you're immune." She laughed. She got a kick out of that. But it's like, if you stand, it's like this is a safe zone.
That's right.
We've all had to learn and adapt, and I think in the end, both healthcare and outside of healthcare, we'll be stronger for it. But
I think so too. I've got a semi-legal question for you.
Sure.
So let's say that I am a medium-sized manufacturer, light industrial, privately owned company, and I've had several of my employees get ill, which it's happening everywhere, and it's hurting our businesses because if employees can't show up, you can't run optimally. Can I? And Gateway Urgent Care doesn't have this policy, but if I'm a small, mid-sized industrial type business, commercial business, can I require my employees to get tested before they come back to work?
Absolutely. Let me give you a quick reason. Can you require your employees to take a random drug test?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because it could hurt my business.
Right, and for the health of your business.
Health of my business, insurance requirements.
Insurance requirements. A private enterprise. I mean, you're serving the public, but it's your business. For forever, we've been able to make the rules. Can you tell your people that they're not allowed to smoke in the building?
Absolutely.
For health reasons. Right, so those policies
and because I don't like it.
Yeah, and say, okay. Now, where people kind of get it, it's like, yeah, but this is something you're requiring us to do as opposed to not do. Well, I'm sorry, but a drug test is that, Sam. I'm requiring you to get a drug test
as a condition of employment
because you're operating heavy machinery, and I don't want you to come in here under the influence of drugs, and also because people that have a drug habit tend to be 5 minutes late and they're not attentive at work and those kinds of things. So I have the right to have you drug tested, and that can be blood, that can be urine, right? And
that's right.
So yes, you can require that, and if the person says, well, then I'm not going to work for you, they have the right to not work for you and to go find employment somewhere that doesn't require them to have the vaccination. Some of the larger employers are coming across and saying we highly recommend, and then what they say is they're like, if your time off, you can use your PTO and things like that, but then you're stuck if you don't. But if you take the vaccination and still get it, or you have to quarantine because of a family member, we'll still pay you for that time.
If you take the vaccination.
Right, if you take the vaccination.
Okay, interesting.
And so again, you're allowed to have policies. I mean, I'm sure Gateway has, I know they do, a policy handbook or those kinds of things, right? Those are your right to restrict business within the boundaries of the law. I mean, you can't say I want all of you to do things that would discriminate, or you can't do those kinds of things. You can't say, okay, all the males in here are going to get vaccinated, the females aren't. You can't do that. Or if you're above 50, you can't start to make these random discriminatory policies. But to say, if you're going to work here, you get the vaccination.
Right.
Absolutely.
I know that there are a lot of hospital systems that require every employee to get a flu shot, a flu vaccine.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
And they highly encourage that your spouse does.
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm. So,
and I highly encourage the flu vaccine. I've had the flu twice in my life, and I never, ever, 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 ever want to have the flu again.
Well, I was diagnosed with flu A at Gateway Urgent Care, and it was the closest to death I've ever been.
Amen.
I'm telling you, it was terrible. And ever since then, I've gotten the flu vaccine. Now, let me tell you something funny. You know this already. So, my wife got the Moderna vaccination.
Oh.
First, she got the first round of it because she's in healthcare. She got the first round of it, and she got it. It was like December the 28th or something like that. And she started feeling really bad. And so at first we were like, this is the vaccination, right? This is the vaccination. You're having a little fever and that kind of thing. But she just kept spiraling down. So on New Year's Day, I get her to urgent care, okay? And guess what she's diagnosed with?
COVID.
No.
Flu.
Flu.
Get out. She's one of the 6.
So
she's famous.
She said only I would be vaccinated against COVID. She had her flu vaccine because she works for the hospital.
She had it back in September.
She had it back in September when she was supposed to get the flu vaccine. And on New Year's Day, she gets diagnosed, or New Year's Eve day, she gets diagnosed with flu A.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's on her Facebook. If anybody doesn't believe me, go back to January or December 31st, January 1st, and say, why am I the lucky one to get diagnosed with flu A after the vaccine?
What's funny is it's not a requirement in our office or anything like that, but a lot of us will get the flu vaccine in September, and then we'll do it again in January.
And I've wondered about that, and that's sort of what I think we're going to see with COVID vaccines. I mean, once we have enough vaccines to take care of everybody, they're probably going to see the recommendation that you re-up this thing every 6 months or something until we know for sure. So. Last thing I want to talk. Were you going to ask a question, PJ?
Oh, no. Well, I was going to say that I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I do understand people's fears, the whole thing of saying, well, it's a new vaccine, so we don't know what the long-term effects could be. But at the same time, the last time you ate out, do you know exactly what was in the food that you purchased?
Made it, and if they were
but you
mad
still,
at you.
you still ate someone's boogers probably. So, and you're still alive. But no, what's funny is I don't regularly get the flu vaccine, and the only reason is because the last time I got the flu vaccine,
I got sick.
I got the flu, and it was just like what you said. It was awful.
Well, what happened is that when did you get the flu vaccine versus when you got the flu?
This was probably about 6 or 7 years
ago.
No.
I mean, if you got the shot today, how long
how long after I got the vaccine? It was like probably a week or so. I got the flu.
The vaccine hadn't had time to work.
Okay.
In
my uneducated mind, I was like, no, never again. And I had this like weird like vagal response.
You mean when you got the shot?
Yeah, when I got the shot, I was standing there and I was doing fine. And all of a sudden, it was like my blood pressure dropped or something, and I got real flush, and I got real cold, and I started sweating, and they were like, "You need to lay down." Like they thought I was like, "Am I dying?"
Well, PJ thinks everything's killing him. When Missy worked here, he was down in her office every day with a new symptom. So he's one of your favorite kind of people.
I've actually been to Gateway.
All right.
I got diagnosed with a double ear infection.
Well, you know what?
Like I was 4.
It was a good diagnosis. I'm surprised they didn't give you a shot.
Like you're 4.
I don't know. I talk to all these people that go to Gateway, and they'll say, "Yeah, I've got this," and I'll say, "Well, did they give you that shot of antibiotic that feels like they're putting super glue?" And they're like, "No, they gave me a prescription and a Z-Pack and all this." I'm like, why was I the guy that got the ping pong ball in my butt?
He knew you were in there.
You were that sick.
I was ill.
Typically, a sinus infection or really bad strep throat, Rocephin is the first antibiotic you give, and 2 to 3 days later, you start an oral antibiotic.
Right. Well, I tell you, I got it. All right. So, Last thing I want to talk about, John, real quick, is the importance and some of the frustrations of all the regulation of running an urgent care.
Okay.
I know that I've helped some of your nurses, and I've helped you on some, billing software, things like that, and I've helped you with getting paid by the government,
Amen, that's
and
right,
so.
yeah.
Just in short, I saw something the other day. Here's how I want to kick this topic off.
Okay.
I saw something the other day. It says, when the pandemic is over, remember it said this. It said, remember, you didn't miss lawyers. You didn't miss such and such. You didn't miss such and such. Who you missed and who you became dependent on were the truck drivers, the frontline workers, that kind of stuff, and it was kind of like they put lawyers in this, and so I wrote her back, and I was like, I can tell you that within days after the pandemic, we had parents who didn't know what to do about visitation because of COVID, and it created fights, and they needed lawyers to be able to figure out what the law applies under these circumstances.
And it was like a bowl of spaghetti.
Right,
yeah.
child support issue obligations. Dad's not working because of COVID. They've shut down his plant. There are all kinds of ways that we immediately began to see the need. People were flooding the office with those things. But there was a lot of business owners like, what do I do? How do I get PPP? What are my obligations to my staff? What are my, and so I was able to tell this person, you don't understand, a lot of people don't understand how necessary legal advice is, but it is. And we've had that relationship for a long time. You call and bounce something off of me because you're trying to stay ahead of the issues. But what's that like for you guys?
Well, you nailed it. There are 3 professional segregations in urgent care. Obviously, everyone always thinks of the medical staff. And so we obviously have board-certified, trained medical providers. We have certified x-ray techs, people at the front desk who are highly trained, that type of thing. So the medical staff is one of the peers. The second peer would be the professional administrative staff. That would be like, for example, I'm not a physician. I'm the managing partner, but I have a general manager who's over all of our companies, and we have an assistant general manager. That's the professional staff that runs the business side.
Right.
Okay. Everything from HR, which is always crazy, to all the legal things, all the legal actions. Are we going to bring a new X-ray system into the company? How does that look financially? Run all the traps there. The third peer of that is the billing department. So we have our own full-time billing department, fully staffed. They're highly trained, educated, and certified. And you mentioned earlier all 3 of those that we have needed legal assistance with over the last 10 years, and we'll continue needing legal assistance with that, because those are 3 different disciplines within one business.
Right. And I'm glad you said. It's funny, PJ. I was looking when I was texting John, and this I'm gonna pull this up. When I was texting John about being a guest on the show, I looked back and I was like, you kind of, when you pull up a text, you haven't texted somebody, you kind of read back the last few text messages you had. I had sent you a text on May the 4th, and I don't know if you remember this, but I'm back on May the 4th,
2020. Okay.
2020, and I said, "Hey, man, I was just thinking about you today. I hadn't heard from you in a while, and just wanted to check in and make sure you were okay. I hope we can soon get out of this slump." Talking about COVID. "I'm just thankful for good health in my family. Keep looking up. Hope all is well." And you replied, you're like, "Amen, man." And then you had a comment about the governor.
Yeah, I know.
And I said, "Yeah, well, the Attorney General's trying to do something about that." And then I said, "I don't get worried when I go a while without hearing from you. I know that means things are going well." And you laughed and said, "That's exactly right." Okay, so that just the reason I share that text is to say that when I go a long time without hearing from you, I don't worry that I've lost a client. I know that my clients, things are going pretty well.
That's right.
And that you've stayed ahead of the issues and those kinds of things. And so that silence. I just wanted to touch base, knowing I was like, well, things must be going good for John, but I'm going to touch base with him.
Well, no, and we appreciate that, and that goes right back to that initial comment I made, is that from the friendship became the trust ship, and we built a business ship.
Right.
And we rely on you.
Right.
Many times for those hard decisions, for the discernment on what do we do next, et cetera.
Right. And we've had many meetings where we lay out options and things like that for you and your business partner, and so it's been great both ways. So.
Yes.
PJ, we've probably gone over our time allotment, but we are famous for. Oh, really? We're doing good?
36 minutes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. John, we really appreciate you coming today. And I can't wait till we have the urgent care just a few blocks away, so that now if I'm here at work and not feeling good, zoom right down the street. And PJ, somebody for you, since you are always worried about what's wrong with you.
PJ, we'll get a special room for you.
It'll be the
PJ room number 1.
That's right.
He's going to regret giving me a business card when this is over with. It's got his email on it. Can I ask one question, though, real quick? And this is something that I was kind of, and you may have answered this a little bit earlier, but this is, so you said you had started like a medical laboratory in the beginning.
Yes.
But what is the transition from starting a laboratory to then doing like starting urgent care facilities? Did you see a need that the public
okay, so the laboratory was an interesting thing. My good friend Malcolm Bryant had said that the man who owned several laboratories in town had some medical issues, and that were probably going to be closing. And so, if you want to be successful, find a need and fill it. And I really didn't have any experience in medical laboratory, but in chemistry I did. And so I did a lot of research, and I built some business pro formas, and just ran everything off the numbers. And if the numbers work, if the law works, then do it.
Right.
And so we built the medical laboratory. The segue into the urgent cares was, did we see a need? Here's the thing. A lot of years ago, I was in a doctor's office, and the lady sitting next to me was very old. And she finally made her way up to the window, and the girl at the window closed the window and turned away. And I thought, how flippin' rude. How can you be so rude to your customer? And then the old lady said she'd been sitting there for 2 hours. And I thought, wait a minute. Why is the doctor's office the only business on the planet where you can lie to your customer about what time we're going to see you and be rude? Mm-hmm. And it was at that moment I thought, I'm going to change the urgent care business. And so I started building a business plan, a pro forma, ran all the financials, all the numbers. I did all the legal work myself then. Sorry, Travis. But
that's okay.
I was just researching on.
That was BT
on
before Travis.
Yeah, that's right. And I launched it on the faith that we're going to treat everyone like a child of God. We're going to get you in and out as quickly as we can. And we're going to treat you with great medical care at a great price. Mm-hmm. And boom, it exploded underneath our feet.
Right. That's awesome.
How many do you have over in Newburgh?
We have one in Newburgh, and we have one on North Green River Road in Evansville, across from Cheddar's, and one on South Green River Road, just south of Belmead.
Okay, so three in Indiana, and soon to be 2 here.
That's correct.
Wow. PJ, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Well, we'll get John
now
back.
Now we're overtime, and it's my fault.
That's okay. We'll get John back sometime to talk about his experiences as playing football for the University of Kentucky and all things in between. So this won't be the last time, brother.
I love it. Thank you all.
This has been Law Lite, brought to you, as always, by Foreman Watson Holtree. Check us out, fwhlegal.com, and on all platforms of social media, and be watching for some drone footage. We are in the air.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!